This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Rocket shooting 38%. Şengün will defend Butler. Shot clock is down to 2. Butler will can it.
Not one, but 2 closers on the same team. Your turn, my turn. 7-0 Golden State run.
Yeah, and the Warriors needed both closers in Houston to get the win over the Rockets. Final of 95-85. And wow, after the Warriors built the 23-point lead in the third quarter, they were hanging on for dear life in the fourth quarter as they do hold on and win Game 1 of the Western Conference first-round series over the Rockets. 95-85 the final. We welcome you in. It's Dubs OT with JD here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR, the number 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation here as everybody can take a deep breath now with the Warriors having secured game number 1. But wow, it felt a lot like many of the collapses that the Warriors have had at different points this year. Not going to lie. And watching this one down the stretch, you wondered, even with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler playing out of this world, somebody else was maybe going to have to hit a couple of shots. And tonight, that somebody was Moses Moody down the stretch. And really the Warriors hustled and grinded their way to enough stops, really more than enough stops. You look at the way this thing played out, even in the first half. I mean, the Warriors winning this game in a big-time way with their defense. 34 points for the Rockets in the first half. They end up with 85, so a more normal 51 in the second half for Houston. But the story of this one was Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, the Warriors' poise after getting down early and frankly looking a little bit overwhelmed early. But they made the Rockets extremely uncomfortable in the half-court offense in this game. And we'll get into everything. The big takeaways here is because these series are all about adjustments, the things that are going to have to change moving from Game 1 to Game 2 both ways. Because as much as this looked like it was going to be a dominant Warrior victory, that's not how the playoffs play out in the NBA. It really isn't. And the Rockets, I think, even in defeat, showed the Warriors and showed everybody watching this series that they have a pathway to still win this series against the Warriors if the Warriors don't clean some things up and do some things a lot better, even with the Warriors taking the 1-0 series advantage in Houston. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number to give us a call or shoot us a text here on Dubs OT. We got Kyle Haar in our San Francisco studios. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line open as well. And, of course, everybody in the YouTube chat, all the regulars, we really appreciate you jumping in and joining the conversation tonight. We've got many, 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 many installments tonight here of Kyle's Clicks on Dubs OT as the Warriors get the win to take the 1-0 series lead over the Rockets. So let's dive into it. Here in this one early. I'm just going to kind of give you all my thoughts on this one. Warriors got beaten early for a lob on the very first play of the game, and then they were getting beat on the boards all night long. The bodies were flying early. Draymond taking a charge of Alperen Sengun. But the Rockets were up 13-0, or were up 7-0 and 13-5. Warriors started cold. Steph Curry missed his first 3 shots. Jimmy Butler was 1 for 3. And the Rockets were dominating the paint. They were dominating on the boards. They were imposing their length and size and some of that physicality on the Warriors. The crowd was jacked in Toyota Center. And the question early was, were the Warriors going to be able to settle the game down enough and make it feel like a normal game quickly enough to be able to get back in it and stay in it. And that ultimately is exactly what the Warriors did in this one. Too many live ball turnovers early. The Rockets up 19-12 after the 7-0 and 13-5 leads. And then that's really when the game flipped. The Rockets were battering Steph Curry off the ball. They would go to couple of bigs late in the quarter. The Warriors matched it, believe it or not, with Quentin Post and Kevon Looney. But I thought one of the turning points of the game, Alperen Sengun picked up his second foul, a little touch foul out on the wing, defending Jimmy Butler. And from that point on, the Warriors really, end of the first quarter, only down 3. And then at the beginning of the second quarter, they tie the game and then grab their first lead on a couple of free throws, 25-23. But the Warriors, from that point on, extended the run, and the Rockets were the team that was turning the basketball over. For all of the discussion in the lead up to this series over the course of the last week about turnovers and rebounding and extra possessions and winning the possession game and all of those different things, it was the Warriors who were forcing the Rockets, and the Rockets half-court offense in the first quarter and the first half of this game, really throughout the entire game, but especially in the second quarter of this game when the Warriors were able to take advantage. The Rockets' half-court offense, I mean, it non-existent, to say the least. Turning it over, missing shots. Basically, in the second half, it amounted to the throw it up and go get it offense, and that, which we'll get to, was more than enough for the Rockets to work themselves back into the game. Warriors at times tonight, I thought, showed great poise in trying to quell some of the Houston runs. At times, the Warriors, and really at the beginning of the game, I thought were extremely scattered, and it was kind of a battle. But for the most part, the Warriors had enough poise once they built that lead to hang on to it. But the Warriors completely flipped the game for the first time in that late first quarter, really beginning of the second quarter, a 31-13 run after the Rockets had led by 8, and Jimmy Butler was starting to get going. Steph Curry was starting to get going. Curry ended up hitting 7 consecutive shots from the 0-for-3 start through the end of the first half. 5 twos, a couple of threes, 16 points to lead the Warriors at that point. Jimmy Butler ended up with 13. The number 3 scorer hadn't mattered at that point for the Warriors because they held the Rockets to 34 first half points. And so you would feel good even with the Warriors under 50 with the 13-point lead. Then third quarter, Warriors come out, and I thought the beginning of the third quarter was the other key stretch in this game for Golden State, where they end up winning it up by 13. They pushed the lead immediately to begin the third quarter. Sengun picked up another foul. Steph with a backdoor cut. Jimmy Butler was working in isolation, and the Warriors found themselves on one of a couple of Curry rainbow threes, 64-41, and then they were up 66-43, which was a lead that looked like, wow, at that point, can the Warriors cruise to this thing? Are they going to be able to kind of light work, not have to overtax the stars and the older players in a game where you're, it's game one of the playoffs, and that was not to be the case. Because the one thing is the Rockets, for all of their offensive flaws, and yeah, I know, they're a top 12. I think they were 12th. So more of a middle-of-the-pack offense. But so much of that is offensive rebounding. So much of that is defense turning into offense. If you can make them play in the half court, they really, other than Sengun, don't have much of a half-court offense. But they're going to continue to fight and scratch and claw and play hard defensively. And Houston was up to that challenge, and that's where the Warriors maybe a little bit too casual. I also give the Rockets credit for the defense that they brought in getting down 23 to work themselves back into the game, and that's where the lack of poise, I think, for the Warriors turned out, and it gave the Rockets an opportunity to go from 23 all the way to 3 in the middle of the fourth quarter. Some timely buckets to keep the Rockets at bay. I mean, Curry had one out of the timeout late in the third quarter, but then the Rockets got on him again for 5 more points. Warriors at one point had a 19-9 edge in the third quarter. From that point on, it was 17-3 Houston to close it out. Warriors had 3 points in 6 minutes, and it was one Jimmy Butler free throw, and it was that one Steph Curry little mid-range jumper out of the timeout. But it was all Rockets, and it was the Rockets' defense and what the Rockets did, and they were throwing it up and going and getting it, and they were getting to the free throw line. Both teams were in the bonus there at the end of the third quarter. But what the Rockets did was they made the Warriors have to make some more shots and try to find some semblance of a third scorer in that fourth quarter. And the other thing the Rockets did, which I think plays for the remainder of this series, is they forced the Warriors really to have to earn it with some heavy fourth quarter minutes down the stretch for the regulars. And you look at this tonight as it all shakes out. Steph ends up playing 40 tonight. Jimmy Butler played 42, and Draymond Green played 36 among the vets. So that's something to file away. I asked Steve Kerr before the game specifically about the fact that the 4 days off in the lead up to this game, the 2 days off between game one and game two, do you feel like you might have to extend if the game is close? Do you feel you might have to extend the veterans more than normal? And 40 for Curry is more than normal by about 6 minutes. Jimmy Butler, at this point, he kind of dictates his own substitution pattern. I feel like for the Warriors, he plays 42 and Draymond 36, which probably is anywhere between 4 and 6 minutes more than I think the Warriors would want Draymond Green to be playing in an ideal situation. So I asked Steve about, can you extend these guys with the extra rest in the lead up and the extra rest between the first game and the second, and then the second and the third? Is there almost more of a dire need to try to win the early games in the series? He didn't go that far with me, but he said, dictated by the way the game tonight played out, he knew the situation in terms of the rest and would manage it accordingly. And Steve went for it. And tonight's one of those games where if he had sat on the fact that they had the 23-point lead and done what I think we would have seen him do in some other years where the Warriors had some more talented teams top to bottom, or even some more top-heavy talented teams in terms of their offense, and having multiple scorers, I think Steve would have, especially in a game one, not played Steph as much and not played Jimmy as much. This Warriors team with the margin for error, you let this game slip away, and I'll just say it right now. If the Rockets had been able to complete the comeback and win this game, shooting 6 for 29 from three, and basically just on their dominance in the paint, their willingness to continue to defend for 48 minutes, and the offensive rebounding and second chance points, you lose this game the way the Warriors would have lost this game had the Rockets been able to come back and steal it, and the Warriors would have been in major trouble for the future of this series and having to go back to the drawing board and even do the things that they did well to come back and bounce back in a building that obviously would be all riled up at Toyota Center if the Rockets had been able to pull it off. So crisis from that standpoint on the Warriors side of things averted, but the Warriors just enough. I mean, Moody hit a big shot with the shot clock running down, made it 79-73. I think Curry with the shot clock running down, the three from out top there to put the Warriors up 7. A little breathing room at that point, and then the Warriors defense stepped it up in the closing minutes there, continuing to force turnovers on a night where you look and the Rockets had 17, the Warriors had 14. The Warriors won the points off turnovers battle, which I think is a battle that the Rockets feel they're going to win more often than not in this series. And the Warriors hustle play with Moody and Podziemski to get Draymond a layup, and then the Warriors able to get the other big bucket, which I thought was the Moody 3 at 84-80 to make it 87-80. And the Warriors from there, Jimmy Butler put back, Jimmy Butler jumper, and that basically ices it as the Warriors win at 95-85 over the Houston Rockets. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's get it going. That's kind of some general thoughts. We'll relate these thoughts from this game to the potential for a game two, because I think there are things the Warriors can draw on from this game that bode well for the remainder of this series. I think the second half and the overall outcome, I think, is something that the Rockets can draw on for game two of this series. Again, I think the Rockets showed a path to winning this series in the second half, even though they lose the game. And those adjustments are what these 7-game series are all about. And I still I'm not quite sure at this point as we sit here on Sunday night that this is necessarily going to be a short series. In fact, I would bet, given the way it played out, that it still is more likely to go 6 or 7 than 4 or 5. So let's get to the phones. 808 KNBR, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. We'll get to the YouTube chat coming up here, but let's get it started on the phones with Drew Down in Tracy. What's going on, Drew Down? Appreciate you tipping us off here for the playoffs. We wouldn't have it any other way on the Sports Leader.
What's up, JD? Yeah, man, I'm juiced that the Warriors were able to get the win. I know you said, what if the Rockets were able to, complete the comeback? I guess we'll never know. So I'm happy to see Warriors. I'm happy to see Warriors playoff basketball. That's what I say, man. I hate the Rockets. I hated them when they had, James Harden. They had Chris Paul. I hate them now. I hate the Rockets. So it's just great to see, the little bit of vitriol between the teams. Steph Curry, man, 37 years old, performing the way he did, hitting some of those ridiculous shots. Just, something that we'll probably never see again in our lifetime. So just appreciate all the games I get to watch with Steph. Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy in full effect. I thought the rebounding was obviously concerning. They gave up, a ton of offensive rebounds. They got to have all hands on deck. I don't know how they're going to, try to rectify that situation, but I thought Pods and Moody definitely, struggled at times throughout the game. But when it came down to it, in the clutch time, I thought they both made some big plays and showed that they weren't triggered from the moment. So that was good to see. I definitely feel like Steph and Jimmy, can carry the offense, but they're going to need guys to off the bench to contribute, and they're going to need a little bit of help. So I feel confident going forward, but still, got to see the others make sure that they can be consistent and come through for the team. So have a good night, JD. Go Dubs.
No, I appreciate it. And, yeah, the degree of difficulty, thanks, Drew Down. We've got a couple of lines open. You can jump in, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The degree of difficulty on the shots from Steph Curry, it was just something else. And look, we see it every single night, but to do it against that defense in this environment, at his age, when the Warriors absolutely have to have it, especially with a lot of the conversation and the narrative, coming into this, there was a lot of focus on that game 2 weeks ago tonight in San Francisco when the Rockets held Steph Curry to the worst regular season scoring and shooting performance that he had in 13 years. Like that's just reality. It happened. The Rockets are an excellent defensive team. And there was a lot of conversation about the different looks and the swarming defense and Amen Thompson specifically, and just all the different ways that the Rockets are going to take Curry out. And you're not going to have Steph, if you're the Warriors, you're going to have to find, Steph ain't going to have the 30-plus point game, and you're going to have to get it from Jimmy and maybe two other guys to make up for that fact. That's a big part of the reason why the Rockets won that game 2 weeks ago in San Francisco. The way you beat it is with elite, superstar, Hall of Fame, potentially top 5 to 10 player of all time shot-making ability. And that's exactly what we saw in this game from Stephen Curry in the biggest moments. And he shook it off as you knew he would. The 0 for 3 immediately, and then finishes the first half with 7. I think he ended up hitting 8 or 9 in a row before he had a miss. And then it went on from there. But, yeah, that's the thing first and foremost. I think, one of the big questions also, Drew Down, is always in these games, it's who looks ready for the environment and who doesn't look ready for the environment. And I thought there were times tonight where Podziemski looked a little overwhelmed. I think there were times tonight where Moody looked a little bit overwhelmed. I think there were times tonight. Jalen Green was awful tonight. Jalen Green, that's the Jalen Green that we usually see against the Warriors. Can't hit a 3, pull-up jumpers missing. That's the Jalen Green that, again, more often than not we've seen. Now, he hit a couple threes in the game a couple of weeks ago. He shot it well. Fred VanVleet, 2 for 13 from 3. Again, you have to think the Rockets are going to shoot better. That's one thing not necessarily you want to bank on if you're the Warriors, is they're going to be 6 for 29 from 3-point range. And not that the Warriors lit it up from 3, but the Warriors did end up having an 18-point advantage from 3 in this game that they win by 10. But I thought at times Amen Thompson missed 4 free throws early in the game. He looked a little. The game is frenetic, in these game ones of these series. And again, I thought the Rockets had channeled their energy really well early. They were coming defensively and really looking to make things happen. And I thought the Warriors did look a little overwhelmed in the first 6 minutes. Like the game had the potential to completely get off the rails, but the Warriors were able to hold it together with their defense. I think primarily able to hold it together. And then the game settles. And as the game settled and the Warriors got comfortable and the Warriors had more experienced players who could be comfortable, the Warriors started to take control of the game. It took the Rockets, I thought, until they got down 23 to really get comfortable. They were just flying around all energy early. They never really were comfortable. They were just trying to win on energy and athleticism and all of the raw ability that their players possess. They settled in when they got down 23 a little more poised off, but they still, didn't hit nearly enough shots ultimately that it was going to take to win this game. So that's something you always keep an eye on, is who's ready early, who's not. From the Warriors' point of view, I thought Moody and Podziemski were overwhelmed at times, but as the game went on, I think they got more comfortable. And I think that's something that bodes well for the Warriors moving forward in the series, is now they win this game one. And now when you win a game and you're a player who doesn't have a lot of playoff experience and you go through the game and you come out of it, now you know what game 2 is going to be like. Now you know what game 3 and 4 potentially are going to be like. It starts to feel more normal for you. So I think that's something to keep an eye on here moving forward. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's get to Nick in Belmont next here on Dubs OT here on the Sports Leader. Warriors win at 95-85 in Houston. Hey, Nick.
Hey, JD. What a game, man. Hey, first time in 3 years the Dubs score 95 or less and get a win. That's a great stat to have going into the playoffs. I think I like the way the defense is looking. And then the main thing I wanted to talk about is how beautiful is it to have a nice, poised Moses Moody doing his thing in the playoffs as opposed to kind of a wild horse, a little bit of a wild card in Kuminga, where he doesn't know his role. He doesn't know exactly what's going on. I just like the way things are ticking. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought Moody did play poised. It's just at times he doesn't look maybe comfortable with his shot. I think there were some shots, a couple of them down the stretch, that he had to take, make or miss. And if you miss him, I know he was talking at shoot around earlier today about just, understanding how everything in the playoffs is magnified kind of irrationally, right? You take shots that you always take. If you miss them in a game like tonight, then people start to question, how good or great a player you are, whether you should be playing in the series immediately. Like, he has an understanding of a lot of that stuff and a calm to him that's much greater than his actual age. Somebody 22 years old and trying to figure it out. So I think that's key. Look, he has to be a part of this. That's the other thing, Nick. He has to be a part of this. He's been a starter. He's part of this group that's 17, 18, and 3 now, with Jimmy and Steph and Draymond and Podziemski in the starting lineup. So in many ways, Nick, Moody and Podziemski, it's like they're either going to pass or they're going to fail, and then the Warriors are going to have to evaluate in the offseason where to go from there. But there isn't really this scenario where both of them on a given night you can just go away from. They've become too big a part of it. So you're almost forced to let them grow up tonight. And there was some good and some bad. But you know what? Moses Moody came through with 5 big points in the fourth quarter, 5 of his 7 there. Big buckets in the fourth quarter down the stretch when the Warriors needed anybody to be able to bring them home along with Steph and along with Jimmy Butler. So, yeah, Moses Moody gets a big-time nod. I'm going to say this, Nick, about Kuminga, and I don't, on a night where he gets another DNP, I really don't want to belabor it. I know there was a report about maybe Brooklyn potentially in the offseason being injured. We're going to keep it about this game and this series for tonight. But I do think, Nick, call me crazy, and I've been as critical and as honest of Kuminga as I think anybody has been in the Bay Area, as objective as anybody in the Bay Area on Kuminga overall. I do watch the way this game played out tonight, and I feel like they are still going to need him. I actually feel more tonight like they're going to need him a little bit in this series than I did before the game started. And that's even with the Warriors winning the game by 10 points. So I wouldn't completely write him off, but I think he's going to be somebody that they're just going to need. He matches up well with the Rockets, and I think they're going to need somebody that can put a little bit of pressure on the Rockets and get into the basket. It's going to be small doses. Obviously, mistakes will get you taken out of a game really quick. But I started the day thinking, yeah, I wonder if they're going to really need Kuminga. Will Steve give him a chance? By the end of the game, I actually kind of think they're going to need him a little bit more than I thought, believe it or not. But obviously, you want to make sure you establish yourself with your most trusted players first, and that's what the Warriors were able to do tonight, Nick.
Good call. Good call. JD, last question. All that said,
sure.
With the fact that the Dubs have won their first game in 3 years today, kind of an all hands on deck, solid offensive, solid defensive game.
Wait a minute. Oh, first game with 95, right?
Years. First game in
with
3 years, they've won under 95. That can't really bode well for a fringe player like Kuminga, who's hoping to get into the rotation, right?
No, and again, I don't think, Nick, it's going to be a major part of it. I think it's just you give them 4 or 5 minutes in the first quarter, maybe, of one of these games, coming up. And I don't know if Steve, maybe the win tonight, you double down on it. Maybe if you get up 2-0, you give them a little bit of run back at home. Again, I don't think it's a pressing issue, but I do think to get through the long haul of this series, they're going to need a little bit more offense. And again, I think one thing I thought and believed and still believe that the Warriors could win this series with their defense, because I do think the Rockets are that bad offensively, especially if the Warriors are not getting completely annihilated on the offensive glass like they did tonight and not turning it over, which they really, 23 points off turnovers is bad. I think the Warriors would probably live with the 14 turnover total, but the 23 points is too much. But the offensive rebounds, 22 offensive rebounds, 22 second chance points, 54 in the paint for the Rockets, a lot of them on the second chance. Those are the things that I think are going to have to be cut out because the Rockets, I don't think you can expect them to shoot as badly as they did tonight from the floor and from the three-point line specifically. It could still be bad, Nick. It might not be that bad.
Good call. No, good call, JD. I think it's going to be tough to find Kuminga minutes, but let's go. Let's go, Dubs.
No, appreciate it, Nick. It may very well be. And again, I think, like I said, I'm more open to it, and I think Steve Kerr might be more open to it ahead in a series to allow, because he does still, I think, want to get more players involved early in a series, because it helps if you wind up needing them later on in the series to get them comfortable. But he did not do Steve did not do I'm going to play 10-11 in the first quarter. He ended up only playing 10 for the game, and really Looney only 9 minutes and Santos only 7. You look at the bench guys tonight, 16 minutes, 15, 12, 9, and 7. That's about as tight a rotation. That's about as tight a rotation as Steve Kerr will ever have. And again, Kerr, rightfully so, chased this game down again, you're up 23. You say you shouldn't be chasing it, but Kerr chased it, because if Steph only plays 34 minutes tonight, 35 minutes tonight, the Warriors might lose the game, and we're having a completely different conversation. It didn't happen. 40 minutes for Steph, 42 for Jimmy, 36 for Draymond. Warriors able to get the win on that. But again, the turnovers and points, the live ball turnovers, the types of turnovers, I think, have to be limited, and the Warriors cannot allow the throw it up and go get it offense for the Rockets to be as successful as it was. They did not gang rebound tonight, and again, that's the biggest advantage that the Rockets have in this entire series, is their ability to throw it up and go get it. All right, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, Dubs OT with JD following game 1 of the Warriors and the Rockets first round of the playoffs. 95-85 Dubs get the win in Houston to take the 1-0 series lead. All right, let's get to Danny in Vancouver next here at 808 KNBR. Again, couple of lines open if you want to jump in and join the conversation there. What's going on tonight, Danny?
JD, my man. Nice to talk to you as always. You like that game?
Can you breathe? Can you breathe? I mean, it's just so great to have playoff basketball back, honestly, and see the Warriors involved in it. And the atmosphere in Houston was tremendous. I was kind of floored, Danny, early. I do not, and I've covered some playoff series in Houston before, in 18 and 19 specifically. And it was later on in the playoffs, and it would get kind of loud. But tonight they were wound up. I double checked it before the game. It was off memory. I mean, this was their first playoff game in Toyota Center since the Warriors knocked them out in 2019. They went to the bubble in 2020, and the people in Houston were amped up for it, and I think they had a little bit more of the edge that this Rockets team plays with at their back. And I thought the first 6 minutes, always a test for the road team, Danny, but those first 6 minutes, the crowd was electric, and I do think the Warriors were a little overwhelmed. Now, they didn't get buried, and they were able to come back and stabilize by the end of the quarter, but that is the beauty of playoff basketball and what it's all about. It was good to feel a little bit of that, at least covering it tonight.
I couldn't agree more, JD, and I'm with Drew down. I hate the Rockets. I used to hate those games. But when they'd win, but it'd be 7 games, and it was just so stressful watching those games. Very proud of the defense tonight. I thought it was A plus level defense. I think this proves that championship DNA and experience matters. I thought Houston was very tight. I mean, Thompson just looked like a deer in the headlights, and I know he's a great player. It's not no disrespect. And I wasn't too concerned when they got down in the beginning because they seemed to have a lot of poise. I did get a little concerned in the second half when they blew that lead, but it wasn't the same. There's always a bit of, with Houston, it seems there's a bit of reversion to the mean. I mean, they just couldn't keep holding Houston down to 11 and 12 points. So I kind of felt that, but I was really proud of the boys, the way they kind of finished off the game. I was really happy for Moody. He came through with some clutch shots, and Pajemski. So I think that was huge in their growth. I guess, the rebound is an issue. I mean, that's certainly something that they have to clean up. I think that the turnovers were super careless. They didn't have a ton of turnovers, but they were really stupid ones. I thought, like just basically handing the ball to Houston. So that's got to get cleaned up. I mean, sorry, go ahead. You go ahead.
No, it does, because when the Rockets get those turnovers, it's 2 points, like automatically. It's 2 points. Yeah. They just go down and dunk it. The ones that are live ball in play, the steals, the loose ball turnovers, any of the ones that stay in play end up being buckets. And I think the Warriors could have. And the rebounding was bad. We all know the Rockets are the number one offensive rebounding team in the league. I'm sure that was mentioned on the telecast 5 or 50 times tonight. I think the Warriors actually could have withstood that if they had not had so many of the types of turnovers that immediately led to points going the other way. But that's going to be something as we start to shift from game 1 to game 2. And understanding, Danny, that the Rockets are not going to be as tight. At least you wouldn't think they would be. Now, sometimes getting down 0-1 will make you tight. I know you're a big hockey guy, Danny. How often you see those teams they lose that first game at home, all of a sudden they lose the second game at home. It happens a lot. And so we'll see if the building might be tight. I think the Rockets in the second half, they freed up a little bit when they got down big, and I think they now believe they can play with the Warriors and do some things to physically impose themselves on the Warriors to hang in the game. So I think that's an adjustment in addition to the turnovers and the rebounding.
But by the way, I had no doubt Curry was going to figure things out this game. I knew. I would bet any amount of money they weren't going to hold him down. He's too clever. He just blows me away every time. Really curious what your thoughts are. And I'll finish up. Jade, first of all, I'd love to see Peyton used a little bit more in those dives, sort of the dunker spot, a little more dives to the hoop. I think that'll help to open things up. I kind of wish they had ran something, a couple more plays for post. I felt like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like 2 or 3 times he was pretty open and they did get the ball to him. So I'd really like to get him into the offense. And I'm curious as to what you think. So those 2 things I'd love to hear your comments on. Curious what you think the adjustments are going to be. So what Houston's going to do, I guess, and also how will the Warriors counteract that for the next game? And last thing, sorry, I'd love the Warriors to get greedy and take this next game. I know they're playing with house money, but let's get greedy and let's get 2 over in Houston. And I'm going to hit greedy. I'm going to hit adjustments from 1 to 2, specifically on the Rocket side. You mentioned Quentin Post, and what was the other thing? There was one more. I was taking notes, and then there was Peyton just diving a little bit more. To
Peyton. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
that's
using
right.
him a little bit more, and that's that could be an extra 10, 15 points doing those things.
Yeah,
Peyton and a little more Post. Go ahead.
I think Peyton and Post, and Danny, I'll let you go tonight, man. Thank you so much for calling in. We'll talk to you Wednesday night. Have a good night, Danny. Thanks, buddy. I think a lot of it is, I think Post and Peyton are a little bit tied together in that it's more offensive patience. I think for the Warriors, I think the Warriors played a little too sped up tonight. I thought even I just, even when they had the lead, I thought they sped up a little bit even when they didn't have to, I guess is probably the way that I would put it. Defense forces you to play sped up. Again, good defense will speed you up even when the defense on a particular possession isn't great. Like you just think that you have to go a little bit quicker because they are so good defensively. So I think patience offensively is a big thing. And just take a deep breath, like Draymond tonight. I mean, Draymond was just a little too wound up, a little too quick, a little too in his decision-making and his passing and his movements, which I think led to some of the turnover issues there. But I think running your offense a little bit more, with a little bit more patience, being able to see now a little bit of what's coming from the Rockets defensively, being able to feel their physicality and their length and their athleticism. Once you go through it for a game, and I know the Warriors just played this team 2 weeks ago, but once you go through it, I think you get more comfortable. Leading to the adjustments that I think Houston now, with the way Steph played and beating them with elite shot making in game 1, I think they're really going to sell out to try and take the ball out of Steph's hands. I think they're gonna double him. I think they're gonna make the Warriors basically play more poised and more patient over the course of this thing moving forward here. And I think that does lead to more of the cutting. I think that does lead to more of the spot up shooting and things like that. So I think the Warriors are going to have to. I think the Rockets are going to force them to play more poised and to get into the depths of their offense a little bit more, and maybe not quite be as isolation based as they were. The Jimmy isolations are fine, but there were a lot of possessions where it kind of didn't look like the Warriors really knew where they were going to go with it when it wasn't in Curry or Jimmy Butler's hands down the stretch. Moody hit a couple of big shots that we talked about, but I think that's going to be an adjustment. I think they're really going to take the ball out of Steph's hands even more in what basically for the Rockets becomes as must win a game as you can possibly have. I think in the playoffs, you go down 0-1 at home, you got to get game 2, or it basically feels like the series is completely over. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's John Dickinson here on Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader as the Warriors win 95-85, 1-0 series lead over the Houston Rockets. You look at the other aspect of this that Danny brought up in terms of the Warriors getting greedy. The Warriors have to, if they're going to make a deep run, and I think that this point plays in both this series, but also for the Warriors' ability to make that deep run. The Warriors cannot just as quickly as they cannot expend a ton of energy. They can't expend a ton of energy in games that they lose in this series. I think if they go for a game, and I think tonight's a perfect example of it, they really go all out for a game like they did tonight in terms of guys playing, they got to win it. I also think there's a cumulative effect of playing fewer games for this team specifically. So if they have to go in on game 2 with the thought that they can get a 2-0 lead and maybe win the series in 4. And I don't mean that as a disrespectful statement to the Rockets, but the reality is if the Warriors can find a way, whether it's by 1 or by 21, to win on Wednesday night, they've got a chance to come home and win game 3 and game 4 and sweep the series. But they would have to have just as much focus and intent in that game as they did tonight and in the 2 games at Chase. Otherwise, again, we've seen if the Warriors aren't bringing it with the focus and the intent, they can lose to anybody, even with Steph and Jimmy Butler playing. And I think this Rockets team is too competitive and too talented, in particular defensively, too athletic to be able to think that you can get away, even if you're up 2-0 coming home. But they do have to get greedy. And because a win on Wednesday might mean a second trip you don't have to make to Houston. A win on Wednesday might mean you have a chance to end a series in 4 or 5 games and get 5 to 8 days off before the beginning of the second series. And you're going to need that to have an opportunity to win the second series. It can't be one of those, you have to play 2 extra games here because those 2 extra games will cost the Warriors later. And again, they may not be good enough to avoid that. Like, let's also say that. Like, they may, we're not in the business, I always say we're not in the business of rating wins. As good or potentially great as this Warriors team is, and I think you even see it tonight, like, this team's not good enough to just dictate that they're going to just start sweeping everybody. I mean, it's not, as I always say, it's not 2017, 2018 anymore. But that being said, you go up 1-0, you got a shot. You go up 1-0 and you got a shot to go up 2-0, and if you go up 2-0, you got a shot to sweep it. And so I do think the Warriors have to. And while I don't think the Rockets will be tight, I think the building will be a little tight, and I think that's something where the Warriors can potentially really look to take advantage. Let's continue on the phones. Carrie in Arizona next here at 808 KNBR. What's going on, Carrie?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Appreciate that. I wanted to talk a little bit. A great win, but one player I definitely have a problem with is Buddy Hield. I don't know what he brings to the team. Maybe he gets hot, maybe 1 out of every 4 games. And then tonight, stole the ball a couple times and lost the ball out of bounds. I don't know what he brings to the Warriors as far as the winning effort. And why can't Santos or a JK come in and take up some of those minutes and fly around so much better than Buddy Hield? I think he sucks.
Well, you said it. I mean, it's the threat of being able to shoot tonight, and I don't disagree with anything else you had to say as far as his game tonight. 1 of 4 when he doesn't shoot it well. He doesn't really do other things well. To the point on Kuminga and Santos, I mean, they are forwards. Hield's a guard. I mean, they really are not the same position at this point, and the Warriors really don't have another option in terms of somebody that's even a threat to shoot. So they're kind of stuck playing him at least a little bit almost in every game. I will say this, though, Carrie. He played 15 minutes tonight. I would imagine moving forward in this series, if he plays like he did tonight, and he didn't totally kill him because he was on the floor. He was a +7, so he was on the floor with some groups of 5 that were playing well, even though I'm with you. He did not play well individually at all. And the not grabbing the ball, kicking the ball out of bounds, like, again, no argument for me on that. But I do think they're a little bit stuck because they lack so much shooting, and they really don't have another guard option. If they had another guard option that they could go to, I think Steve Kerr would go to that option. And Kuminga and Guy Santos, who played, 7 minutes tonight, Kuminga, who didn't play at all, are really more forward options. But if it's going to be like it was tonight, I think the 15 carry is probably going to go down to about 9 in game 2, and it might go down even more than that moving forward beyond game 2.
Yeah, you know early on with him in the first 5 minutes or so whether he's going to be hot or not. But if he can't provide the hot shooting, then he's just a wasted player on the floor. And even if you have to have an extra forward in there instead of a guard to put up with the Rockets' length and height.
Yeah.
Wow. In this series, I just don't. I hope he does a lot better. But I hope you're right in that he does get decreased playing time if he continues on this pattern.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think he's at 15 and going down. I think that's, and you'll see it again. You can't really do it with everybody, but as the series goes on, I always say, as series go on, really what determines who wins and loses is who's still playable. Every team has 8-9 they think they can play, usually going into a series. And what you find by about game 3, game 4, game 5, and sometimes it takes longer, but it's the coaches that are kind of forced to keep guys on the floor that can't play, or you have to take them off the floor, and then you realize that you've only got about 4 guys that are, 3 or 4 guys that are any good in the series in that matchup, and you end up with 2 guys that are just killing you at all times on the floor. So I think that's something that that's kind of how these series play out. It comes down to the playables, right? Over the long haul, and I would say Buddy is trending. Now, when you win game 1, you can get away with probably giving him a few minutes in game 2 and so forth, and the other fortunate part, Carrie, is you win game 1, maybe game 2 is the game where he hits 3 or 4 threes early, and then you can get away with playing him a little bit more in game 2, and you don't have to go to that extreme option of just kind of ripping him out of there, to begin with. But I do think it's a fair point, Carrie, when you look at the Rockets' makeup specifically, to where as time goes on, could you maybe go with another forward? I think the Rockets are one of the few teams in the league where you might, because of their lack of offense, be able to do that with a little bit more defense and kind of make it a zero-sum game and win that way. So I don't think you're crazy for bringing it up, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the call.
No, appreciate it. Good phone call. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. You can give Kyle Harr a call and get on the line here to join me, Dubs OT, with JD. Warriors win it 95-85. The final as they get the job done in Houston, and the Warriors take the 1-0 series advantage over the Rockets as we roll on here on this Sunday night. And happy Easter to everyone who observes on this fine Sunday, late Easter this year. But yeah, definitely something that can get lost when you're covering a playoff series. There's games on all weekend. But yes, happy Easter to those as well, celebrating. Let's get some Kyle's clicks here, and we'll take a timeout. Kyle, let's go. Rapid fire, bee's knees. Buddy should be wearing a helmet out there. Yeah, just grab the ball. Just grab the ball. I think at one point, I think Pajemski and Jimmy Butler were telling Buddy, just grab the ball. Steve Kerr was as irritated as I saw him the whole night, Kyle, when he threw the lob to Jimmy Butler. It was almost as if Buddy thought Kuminga was running with him. Is there anybody on the Warriors roster other than Kuminga that you would even attempt that pass to? Maybe TJD? Seriously, nobody on the Warriors is going to finish that. And yeah, Jimmy went up and it got broken up and it wasn't pretty. Steve was not happy about that. But yeah, Gisak, Rockets going home tonight asking themselves, do we have enough? I think they are, although I think they showed themselves in the second half that they can compete and can contend with this Warriors team. But I'm with you. Do they have enough in the half-court offense? That's a question that I would say the answer remains to be seen, and I would still lean no. But the problem is for the Warriors, the Rockets were within 3 down the stretch, and the Rockets had no half-court offense. It was all points in the paint, turnovers, putbacks, throw it up, go get it. And the Rockets were still that's, to me, I think that's what the Rockets are telling themselves. The Rockets are telling themselves, we played terribly on offense. Terribly. and were right there and had a chance with any semblance of a half-court offense, you can win the game down the stretch. So I think a little bit of that works both ways. I think there's some of, do they have it in them, that's fair to question, but I also think it's definitely within reason that they say, hey, you make even 9 out of 33s and maybe you win the game, or 10 out of 33. You make a couple, and the Warriors, there were some open ones, but part of how you defend the Rockets is taking up in the paint and daring them to make some shots until they do. The problem, though, tonight is you got to rebound out of that. If you're going to do that, you got to rebound. And the Rockets over and over. I mean, how many possessions did the Rockets miss? Multiple shots and just keep getting it back until they scored. I mean, that's how you get into the 20s in terms of your offensive rebounds. So let's do a couple of more here before our first timeout. Diggum, 117, Thompson, Dellavedova, Brooks, Allen, all these guys tried to stop Steph and failed. Look, Amen Thompson's going to be a dude, I think, in the NBA, in his NBA career. I got nothing bad to say about Amen Thompson. He did not ask for what was kind of being put on him because he had a really good game and he's an excellent defender. Got snubbed, I think, in the top 3 of the Defensive Player of the Year voting which came out earlier today. Draymond Green among the finalists there, but I still love Amen Thompson, but yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as a Curry stopper, and you're right. Dylan Brooks tried, couldn't. Dellavedova's tried, couldn't. Marcus Smart, I'll throw Marcus Smart in there. Tried, couldn't. Tony Allen tried, couldn't. And yeah, Amen Thompson. Again, I still think the Rockets are as equipped to make it as difficult as possible on Curry, but tonight's kind of the quintessential. They made it as difficult as possible, and he still has the ability to make shots at an elite level to where he can carry a team. And that's exactly what he did tonight. One more, Kyle. One more. Rusty Nail. We'll get more in the YouTube chat coming back after our first time out here on Dubs OT. Rusty Nail beating Memphis was huge. Having those 4 days of rest was critical. Memphis looked tired today. So glad we got this matchup again. Yeah. And you were rested tonight. That's the other thing. The Warriors had some shot making tonight. Steph did, rested tonight. That's the other thing that I do think gives the Rockets a little bit of hope from their point of view for the future of the series. The long series for the Rockets is good because as the series goes on, the rest in between games and the travel and everything, it dwindles. And I think the Rockets at this point are counting on it. The Rockets want to make it 2-2 to go into 5 and 3-2. And like they want this thing to be a 6-7 game series, because they think they have the horses to be able to withstand that, and that the Warriors will basically break down and be too tired against their defense if they are in position where they have to win a game 6 and a game 7. Good note there, though, from Rusty. All right, let's take our first time out. 808 KNBR. We still got time to jump in on the phone lines. 415-808-5627. Who gets your game ball tonight? I think that might be an easy one. I think it's got to go to Wardell, Steph, and Curry, but big game from Jimmy Butler. What's the thing you like the most about the way the Warriors played in this one? What's the thing that maybe concerns you the most from game 1 to game 2? What's one adjustment you'd make if you were Steve Kerr, and one adjustment the Warriors should prepare for from the Rockets in game 2? We'll get into that. More from the chat. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
He will drive. Şengün will defend. Curry's got it. He and Butler, as I said, 18 apiece. He'll dance. He'll throw up a shot. Oh, are you kidding me? Geometrically, that should not have happened. Wow, what a shot.
This is crazy. First it was Butler, now Stephen Curry. The degree of difficulty on that three.
He does. Like I always say, Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
Wow. Prediction, Jimmy Butler? Does that count as a prediction? He's going to be the reason why we win it all? Jimmy Butler postgame. Steph Curry with the three. It was truly the Steph and Jimmy show in Houston as the Warriors win game 1, 95-85, the final 1-0 series advantage. Game 2, Wednesday night, right back in Houston as the Warriors will look to take the 2-0 series lead there. How about this quote, by the way? And we're back here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to give us a call or shoot us a text. We'll get to the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line coming up. But how about this quote? We bring in Kyle Haar here. Jimmy Butler postgame on Steph Curry. I'm seeing this from downstairs at Toyota Center. The only person who knows what's coming out of the organized chaos is the one creating it. What a quote! What a quote from Jimmy Buckets on Steph. Yeah, it was the two alphas tonight for the Warriors leading the way, and that's where you need your best players. I mean, you always look to your best players first, Kyle, especially in the pivot points of an NBA playoff series, and both of those guys were up to the task tonight. And I got to ask you, man, does that count as a prediction for Jimmy Butler? We know Draymond had his at All-Star Weekend in San Francisco. I mean, Jimmy said he's going to be the reason we win it all.
Well, Draymond's prediction was bold. Well, we'll put it that way.
Yes.
But Jimmy's was like, if we win, he will be the reason why we win. So
I don't know. Prediction or nah? You're going to say no. Okay.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, but I do think there is a lot of confidence within that team.
A lot, no, without question. Back to the chat real quick here. We do have a Sounds of Dubs OTs coming up. We'll keep things going here on into the night. It is already tomorrow in Houston, a little bit after midnight, with the 8:30 tips. Tomorrow comes a little bit quicker than it does back in the Bay when things are tipping off at 5:30 or 7 o'clock. I'm looking at this one from San Jose Jazz Fan 4, Kyle. We saw Brickton post, Draymond red brick, Bricky healed, and except for Q4 Moses Bricky, I guess I need to give Moses a pass for the timely shot. Hey, if Moses doesn't hit the two that he did, I mean, I know the Warriors did end up winning by 10, but I mean, 84-80 when he hits the three to make it a 7-point game. And I'm looking at the other jumper. I mean, he hit two jumpers, the one with the shot clock running down that put the Warriors up from 4-6, and the one 3-pointer that put them up from 4-7, 87-80. And I thought that the three was really the one where everybody truly could exhale after, Steph hit the wild one, and, to make it 82-75, to get it back to 87-80 after the Rockets had scored a couple of buckets there, I thought was key down the stretch, and really the moment in which the Warriors could allow their defense to sink in and continue to get stops there. But yeah, too much of the guys that weren't shot makers tonight in play for the Warriors than I think they were comfortable with. But, the Rockets can defend at a high level, and now you push and move forward. And again, there are going to be guys who didn't have it tonight that are going to be able to relax in game 2 of this series. And I think that's where playing from a position of advantage is always beneficial, especially when your team that doesn't have the home court advantage going in. Warriors now do have the home court advantage. They steal that away tonight. All right, back to the phones. 808 KNBR. Let's get Fossey in the East Bay. What's going on, Fossey?
Yeah, JD, thanks for taking my call. Look, you were asking earlier, what am I most worried about? And, man, look, I don't want to sound like a jerk on the airs right now, but honestly, if I had to say something, it'd probably be the younger guys, but nothing really. Steve Kerr, he gets a lot of credit tonight, man. He relied on his two main guys, and they came in and they got it done for him. And he was playing a little bit of chess there with him, the Rockets head coach. They were killing us on the offensive boards. He brings in Looney to kind of just, be that anchor, slow things down for us. And we were up big, and we almost, gave one away. But to be honest, I'm not too worried about this series, man. And you can call me delusional or whatever, because those guys, they're athletic, they're fast, they play defense hard. But look, man, tonight, the veterans and their experience, it showed, man. And look, I'm going to just call it for what it is. Good year, Houston Rockets, but we're bringing out the brooms here in Golden State, baby. We'll check in with you We'll check in with you at the end of this series, JD. Cheers, boys. Shout out to the chat. All right, guys.
Wow. Fozzie saying it's going to be a sweep. Fozzie's calling a sweep after game one. I cannot believe it. I mean, it's not off the table, though. I'm not going to lie. It's not off the table. Andis, now Jimmy writing checks that Steph has to cash.
Well, now Fozzie's writing checks that Steph and Jimmy have to cash.
Exactly, Andis. Yeah, now Fozzie's writing checks for everybody that are going to have to be cashed, calling a sweep after game one. Look, the Warriors are in a great spot. I mean, once you win game one and you don't blow the 23-point lead, immediately you can exhale. And every game in a playoff series is completely different. And again, I think there are going to be players for the Warriors that are going to be more relaxed in game two. I think there are going to be players for the Rockets that are going to be more relaxed in game two. I think the one thing that does typically happen for the team that loses, and I can already hear Steve Kerr saying it, and I'm sure we'll have the clip of it, but the biggest difference, if he doesn't say it tonight, he'll say it tomorrow, say it Tuesday or Wednesday in the lead up to the game. But the biggest thing that changes is the desperation that the team that loses comes out with. And I think the Warriors, believe it or not, on that front are well equipped to handle it, because what do teams do when they're desperate? You try to defend harder, you try to crash the glass harder, you try to get every loose ball a little bit harder. Like to me, the Rockets almost play that kind of a game anyway. So can they truly level up in terms of that? Like, was part of the reason why the Warriors won tonight the fact that the Rockets, didn't meet the playoff level of intensity? I don't really think that played much of the game. I think the Rockets were pretty freaking intense throughout the whole game. And at times, again, especially early, I thought they had the Warriors on the ropes of potentially getting down 20-5 or 25-8 or something. But their offense just wasn't good enough to allow for that to come to fruition. But I don't know that I would bet sweep at this point. Again, I think the Rockets have some things they can hang on to from game one to game two. But if the Warriors can withstand the early part of game two and the Rockets still can't find it offensively, and the Warriors figure out a way to eke out another one at Toyota Center, then sweep is very much on the table with the next two games back at Chase. But again, I think that's a little premature at this particular point in time. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Let's get some text messages. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. 951, Warriors have the Rockets shook. Their defense dismantled them. They want both games coming back to Chase. Yeah, the Warriors defense, big time. Big time. Now, part of great defense is the ability to finish the possession by getting the rebound. That's something that is typically necessary. Any coach or basketball observer will tell you that. You got to get the possession, and the Warriors too often tonight didn't get the possession. But what does that tell you? I mean, you look at the second chance points and the offensive rebounds in this game, and the points in the paint basically off of all of that. The Rockets scored 85. The Rockets had 22 offensive rebounds. They took 11 more shots. They got to the free throw line 6 more times than the Warriors did. That's one thing I think that does bode well for Golden State in game two, is the fact that the Rockets, and maybe the Rockets hit their free throws at a better clip. That was one area where maybe the Rockets were a little bit tight in game one, especially Amen Thompson, who missed 4 free throws really in the early part of the game. But I think when you look at it, the Warriors have to feel pretty darn good at getting the win and the way that their defense played. I mean, 85 points, even allowing 11 extra field goal attempts and all of those offensive rebounds and extra opportunities for to me, that the actual defense rebounding notwithstanding for the Warriors, that makes the job that the Warriors did because of all those extra possessions and field goal attempts. It makes it even more elite for Golden State. Let's get another one here from the 650. Let's see. Actually, let's go to the 657. Warriors' elite defense suffocated the Rockets to their worst offensive performance of the season. Good take there. 657. Let's see. 206. Let's go, JD. Go Dubs. The Warriors and the Greater Harmonic Thrive City needed to experience a win like that. That's right. This is our buddy. Is this our buddy Alex? I gotta check the number. I think this is our buddy Alex chiming in here from Harmonic. I'm gonna double check the number there because I got that. That's our buddy Alex. I thought it was, but yeah. How about the folks at Thrive City watching the game on the big board next to Chase Center and Harmonic? Always stop by Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City, and for a lot of these away games, stop by, get a brew, watch the game, and then check out Dubs OT with JD after that. Right when we were ready for the meltdown loss, Alex writes, the boys held on for an important statement win. Hope you find a place for a nice post-game Pilsner. Yeah, I think I'm going to the I think it's called Dirt Bar. I know that's very Houston, right, Kyle? I think it's called. I walk by it although it is Easter Sunday, but they did say, well, I guess technically Monday now, but it did say open till 2 a.m. So I don't know if which is obviously standard operating procedure most places, but we'll work on finding a way to work our way into a southeastern Texas Pilsner before calling it bedtime on this Sunday. No question. Thanks, Alex. 415, put our bigs in. Easy rebounds. Put our bigs in. Okay. I did see a couple people say, Kuminga can help with the rebound. I mean, yes, if he's motivated, I think he can help with the rebounding. I don't know about you, Kyle. And again, I don't want to spend a ton of time on Kuminga today because he pretty much is still in the same place that he was last Sunday and going into the Memphis game and going into this game, obviously, with Steve paring the rotation down. I left tonight's game, though, more than the last three, thinking that he is going to get an opportunity. Like I do think I don't view it as, hey, the Warriors keep winning without him, Steve's going to keep figuring out a way to not play him. That's just not typically how Steve is to begin with. He I think knows that he might need Kuminga, and I don't know. Is 1-0 the opportunity on the road to get him in? I don't know, but he does from a body standpoint match up with the Rockets. It just, I don't know. I feel like he truly alleviates. He's kind of a Rockets type offensive player, to be honest. Like he just, doesn't take good shots. It isn't really good in the half court. If it's not a layup, it's probably not a shot you want to take. But I don't know. I just think he's playing of, like skill set types when he's going up against the Rockets. So I kind of feel like it's a decent enough matchup. And I mean, the numbers obviously in the game, Steph didn't play and all that speak for themselves. But again, I'm the last guy, Kyle, to be like, damn it, you got to play Kuminga. But I just feel like he can alleviate some of the defensive pressure that the Rockets put out there against the Warriors, which I do think they're going to need to open up. I don't know that 95-85 is the way to win and play 4 or 5 more games of this series.
No, yeah, I think, Houston is the one team where JK can match up well. I also think maybe the Lakers, but I think my one takeaway for the Warriors, or bad takeaway, was, rebounding. And does Kuminga provide that? Yes, he has the athleticism to do so, but is the willingness there? Will he be able to keep up with the physicality of Houston and their 2 bigs or 3 bigs if we're counting Jabari Smith Jr.? But I think the one game that I would point to where it did look like he was willing to rebound was that Laker game. and he came soaring in from damn near the 3-point line to snag some of those rebounds. So it is weird because at the same time, you don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how the other players would respond as well, or how it would fit. And I'm not sure where exactly in the game you would want him to play as well.
Yeah, I think it could be, and I mean, I'm looking at the rotation from tonight. I mean, I think it could be about that 7-minute mark. I mean, of the first quarter. I think initially we can go first quarter first, and then maybe third quarter later. But I mean, the first sub of the night was GP2 for Podziemski tonight, and then it was Quentin Post for Jimmy Butler. You're obviously, though, you're not going to play Peyton and Kuminga together with Draymond Green, I don't think. So that makes it a little problematic. I know we were talking about it a little bit on Just Dubs, and I had even mentioned it a little bit to Greg Papa, but just looking at some of the lineups that have worked with Kuminga this year that the Warriors might be able to use in this series. What do you think of a Steph, Buddy, GP, Kuminga, and Looney lineup? That is kind of in line with the type of lineup that you could have maybe middle of that first quarter until about the 2-minute mark. Again, we're only talking about like maybe 4 minutes in that first shift. Jason chiming in here in the chat. JD, game 2 is a good time to get JK some run in the non-Butler minutes. That end of the third quarter was a scoring drought. Yeah, Jason, appreciate you in the 209 for chiming in. I'm kind of with you. Again, I'm kind of with you. I feel like tonight, even though the Warriors the win, even though I'm high on the Warriors' ability to stop the Rockets in the half court, I just feel like the way the Warriors did it tonight, specifically with the elite shot making from Steph, with needing Jimmy to go big in terms of scoring, and then just still kind of having to hang on with some clutch shots and a lot of great defense. I still think it's not quite completely sustainable for an entire series. They just need a little more offense. They need a little more. I don't know that they need a lot more offense. Now, they do if Steph's going to have a bad game. I mean, immediately they do if Steph's going to have. So if you're telling me Steph's just not going to have a bad game in this series, or he's, and again, there's a difference between having one bad game and having 4. And would you bet on Steph having 4 bad games? Probably not at that point. But I don't know, Kyle. It just, to me, they just need a little more. Now, that offense could come from Quentin Post or Moody or Podziemski. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to come from Kuminga. But they just need. I don't know if it's him specifically, but they need a little more of something.
Yeah, and just be that short burst guy. I mean, I go back to, what game was it when the Warriors played the Lakers? Was it game 5 and Lonnie Walker had like 16 points in the fourth quarter? And I'm not saying
fourth quarter. It's game 4.
Game 4, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude, Lonnie Walker. Anyway, but I think Kuminga, not that he needs to score 16 points in like 6 minutes, but can provide a burst. And I actually saw someone in the YouTube chat, and even though JK isn't necessarily a good free throw shooter, but at least when he goes to the free throw line, that's extra time that he's buying for Jimmy and Steph. And I will, and sorry, one more thing. And I will add that JK, absolutely, he needs to be on the floor with Steph, and that would be the time to take Jimmy Butler off, because I think Steph in that pick and roll is the one action I really like him in.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, and I think it's a situation. Man, I'm just watching the Steph shot over Jalen Green, the one fading to the right. I mean, just unbelievable. It was a shot from a guy who was basically sitting courtside. I mean, just the movement to get to that shot. I mean, Jalen Green's draped all over him. I mean, what a shot. Incredible. And then the Rockets fan is just absolutely beside himself there in watching the shot go down. Unreal stuff there from Steph. But no, I think it has to be with Steph. Estimated eyes. Let's just stick with what works. I think Steve Kerr might do that. Again, ride the hot hand. And I think the other part of this, and only Steve knows for sure, is just, how has Kuminga taken the demotion? And look, it's a demotion. I mean, I think JK thought he was going to be playing a lot, when he first came back from the injury and be a much bigger part of this. So how has he handled it? There's also, is it fair to put him in that position, where he may, if he is, I'm not saying he is, but again, the coaching staff and people in the organization would know if he's ticked off about it, if he's sulking about it. Again, I'm not saying that he is, but if there's a thought that he isn't going to play well when you do put him in there, then maybe you're more reluctant to actually go to him. But no, if you do, I do think it's middle of that first quarter, and then you just kind of see what you got out there with a few minutes with Steph and maybe even Buddy, GP, and you look to try and get Kevon Looney into the mix there as well. Let's get one more, 7:07. What happens when JK gets playing time and they lose and then the fans turn on him? Well, again, I don't think Kuminga is going to be playing enough to where he's going to be killing him. Like, that's the other part of it. Like, it's kind of like the Buddy Hield minutes. Like, Buddy Hield individually wasn't good tonight, but he didn't play long enough to really kill him. Like, he was out there with some good line. I mean, that's part of when you have a struggling player. Like, 4 minutes of Kuminga in game 2 is not going to be the reason you lose the game, I would think, at this stage. Now, I say that, but a couple of years ago against Sacramento, that was actually literally true in the early part of that series. But again, that series, you were going up against a much more skilled offensive team in Sacramento, and with a much more creative offense in play under Mike Brown, who obviously knows Kuminga's tendencies extremely well. I think that's part of it too. What was the other? Was there another one? Let's get a couple in the chat here, actually, and we'll take another timeout. YouTube user Post and Looney were awful. Maybe JK brings some size to a smaller lineup. I think that's a fair point. I was surprised that, he did it for, I don't know, it was 2 minutes maybe, where he had, Post and Kevon Looney. When's the last time Kevon Looney played the 4? Like, in college? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Kevon Looney played the 4 tonight. That's again only for about 2 minutes with Quentin Post out there. But yeah, I think that's a case to be made for Kuminga potentially playing a little bit too. But again, it was Şengün and Adams in particular when you look at the offensive rebounding and all of that. And I'm just looking, I'm looking at the number, and it was 22. Amen Thompson had 6. Şengün had 2. Dylan Brooks had 3. You look at who's getting them. Steven Adams had 5. Obviously, he's a historically great offensive rebounder, but it was really everybody. It was literally everybody except for Fred VanVleet. And by the way, we talked about the Rockets and their young players, and obviously they have a couple of key veteran players that play a lot for them. VanVleet's one of them. Steven Adams is one of their guys that play a lot. In terms of the vets, Dylan Brooks, but they only played 8 tonight, so it was a real paring down of the rotation in this one for Ime Udoka. The 8 total tonight for the Rockets. The Warriors did play 10, although it was a soft 10. It was really more like 8 for Steve Kerr as well. One more. FL Dubs fan, got to admit the Rockets did not play like a 2 seed, and the Warriors did not play like a 7 seed. We spent the better part of the last week after the Warriors lost to the Clippers discussing the fact that was this the better matchup than the Lakers? Again, you look at the Lakers last night, and they looked a little physically overmatched by the Timberwolves, which is something that I did not think would be as dramatic as it was in game 1. And so we'll see how that series shakes out. I picked the Lakers to win it, but the Rockets officially have that series on notice going into Crypto.com Arena and getting a win. But no, I think the Warriors did win, lose, or draw. And this series is not by any means over. But win, lose, or draw, I do think the Warriors got the best possible matchup they could have to move forward from game 1. To move forward in this series and be able to win and advance to the second round. All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take another timeout. We'll come back And we'll do more in the chat, and we'll also set up. We got a lot of sound tonight, I would imagine, to choose from Postgame. So we'll do a little more in the chat, and we'll see where we're at, and then get to sounds at Dubs OT as well. We're going to go till at least 11 back in the Bay, maybe a little bit longer. We'll have to see how things roll here. As long as the people want to go, we got a couple of phone lines open. We officially have Overnight Dave in. I feel like Overnight JD here at 12:30 Central Time with Dubs OT. But you can give Overnight Dave a call. He'll put you right up to the front of the line here as the Warriors get the win in Houston, 95-85. It's KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
got the screen, slithers and feeds. Moody, 3. Rebound, Pajemski. Rebound, Green. Rebounding the Rockets inside to go up by 9.
Beating them at their own game on the offensive glass.
No, I didn't mention it at all. I totally forgot to tell the team that Houston is really physical and great on the glass. But thanks for the reminder, and I'm gonna mention it before game 2.
You should.
Wow, Steve Kerr there, a little bit of Tim Kawakami of the SF Standard there at the end. Yeah, Steve told him. There were things that I think were talked about over and over and over and over and over and over and again in the lead up to this series. Back here on Dubs OT with JD, Warriors win 95-85 1-0 series lead. Game 2 at Toyota Center in Houston on Wednesday. The two things were turnovers and offensive rebounds. The forcing turnovers and defense turning into offense is number one, and the offensive rebounding, which is something that the Rockets are number one at in the NBA, even better at the forcing turnovers and scoring points off of them, and needing both of those things to have a top half of the league offense are important. It's the ability to go out there and do it. And I think, the another way to always look at these series, and 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627 to jump in and join the conversation. It's Dubs OT with JD here on this Sunday night on the Sports Leader. It always, looking at these series from game to game, it's what are you most confident in that will change, and maybe least confident in that'll change for your team's side of it, depending upon what it is for the series. And again, I think the Rockets are probably telling themselves tonight that their offense cannot be worse, and that they still had a chance to win with 6 minutes to go after falling behind by 23 because of the other things that they did well. So I think the Rockets are probably telling themselves that they're going to be more relaxed in a game 2 than they were in a game 1. I'm thinking about this one from the Warriors. What can the Warriors count on for sure in game 2 to be different and be better than it was in game 1? Well, and I think in this instance, can you count on more scoring from Pajemski and Moody? Not necessarily. Can you count on Steph and Jimmy to bring a big-time effort? Yeah, that I think you can count on. Who else I think could be better is Draymond. This was not the best Draymond Green game for the Warriors tonight. It really was not. And you look up and, he ended up a +4, but it was really tonight. I mean, it was much more about Steph, and it was much more about Jimmy Butler. And, I think Pajemski, he didn't shoot it well. He did make 3 of 8 from 3, but Pajemski ended up game high, the Pajemski plus minus back, game high +17, 14 points, 8 boards, 5 assists, couple of steals, only the 1 turnover for Brandon Pajemski. Brandon Pajemski in 35 minutes, he I think goes down as playing better than I think he thought he played when you look at the way this one goes. But I'm curious, what, and we'll throw it out there in the chat, what do you think you can count on more in game 2 compared to game 1 from the Warriors side of things? I think that's something that I don't know. It might be a little bit concerning. Better attention to the glass. I mean, maybe one thing. I thought the Warriors probably did as close to as well as you could probably expect in terms of the turnovers and the like. So I think, that's definitely something that, could they clean it up by a couple of turnovers, a couple of live ball turnovers? I mean, but I think that's it in the short term, maybe what you're kind of thinking about. But no, I thought the Warriors all told, I think the Rockets probably have more they can draw on in the things that they didn't do in this game that they think they can do for the next game. And I think the Warriors, are going to have to find some things, because I know the guys on TNT were talking about it tonight, just the level that Steph had to play at for the Warriors to be able to earn this win, even while playing as elite a defense as they did. Is that a concern that level is, it can continue to be sustainable off of that? I think that's something that you sort of file away moving forward here. But back to the phones, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Matthew in Danville is next here on Dubs OT. Hey, Matthew.
How you doing there?
What's going on tonight, my man? How are you?
Man, I'm a happier man than I was when they pulled within 4, that's for sure.
Ooh, man, everybody was sweating that one out tonight, Matthew. Wow.
No question. Hey, a couple quick questions for you. Regarding the broadcast, it seemed like they focused more on how the Rockets hung in there and played really good defense. I'm not sure it's too shabby that we held them to 85. I mean, like that's a pretty solid outing for the Warriors, who are not necessarily recognized as a big time defensive team. I mean, where was the respect there?
Yeah, they have been a big time defensive team since Jimmy Butler's come over. That's without question. Yeah, I've noticed that. I thought even coming into the series, and I was in Houston, so I didn't have the broadcast up here and able to watch the game in person. But I do feel like that had been a talking point regularly in the lead up, was a lot about that game that the Rockets put on the Warriors 2 weeks ago. And maybe not as much about the Warriors' ability to kind of completely snuff the Rockets out in the half court, especially. We've talked a lot about the ways the Rockets score otherwise. But no, the Warriors have been a pretty damn good defensive team themselves since the Jimmy Butler trade.
Yeah, it's a little it's a little interesting to listen to the guys on the national squad versus listening to your show and listening to the guys like Tolbert and the rest of the guys around the Bay Area when they give their commentary. But the other question I have for you is just to reset real quick, and then I'll let you go and take it off the air. But as I understand it, from the amount I follow the Warriors is a pretty good amount, but not as much as you. There was a time when JK was playing fairly regularly as a starter, and of course you put him on the bench, and that was a big deal. And first guy off the bench, and this and that. How did we go from that to him not playing at all? Like what is going on here?
Yeah, and Matthew, I will reset it. I mean, he was before he got injured back on January 4th against Memphis, and the Warriors were really fledgling at that point. They were not in a good place, and he was starting to, before he got hurt, become really the number 2 option in addition to Steph Curry, but they weren't winning a lot. And then they make the Jimmy Butler trade in the time that he was out, and he ended up being out over 2 months. He ended up being out, and in that time they acquired Jimmy Butler, and I think the decision had already been made to make him kind of a super sub, bring him off the bench. But he was doing that even before the injury. But then he sustains the injury. They go get Jimmy Butler, and they play great with Jimmy Butler. And it makes it, and thanks for the call, it makes it to where he had to kind of come back and refit himself into a completely new and different team. And he likes to operate in a lot of the similar, the same spots on the court that Jimmy Butler likes to operate. And so finding lineup combinations with both of them immediately reduced his minutes, and he just could not really find enough other combinations to play with to where he was going to be playing a lot. And he did make some mistakes. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, Steve gave it the entire last month of the season up until the last day. He gave it a shot for Kuminga to try and find some role. He played him in every one of those games where JK was available, although it had been reported. Remember, there was the one game that he missed April 1st at Memphis, and the Warriors really, after things had kind of fallen off since he came back offensively, had a great ball movement, player movement kind of a game in that game, and beat the Grizzlies, and it started that string of winning at the Lakers, he came back against the Lakers. He played great against the Lakers. Best game, I think, since he returned. But if you remember, there was the game against, I think it was Denver, right, where Guy Santos closed down the stretch of the game and Steph had motion for Guy. I think he just, I don't want to say fell out of favor, but the trust in terms of the expanded role from Steve and from the Warriors star players, I think waned enough to where going into that must-win game to get into the playoffs, the last game of the year, he chose to, in terms of Steve Kerr, go in a different direction and go with players that were more trusted and fit with the Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green combinations, knowing that he was going to lean on them more. So that's kind of the short answer to the long answer, I guess, as to what was going on. And now, it's when do you put him back in? If you're not playing him in a play-in game, 2 play-in games, and you're not playing him in game 1, well, when are you going to get an opportunity to play him? Let's get Javier in Vacaville next here on Dubs OT on this Sunday night. What's going on, Javier?
How you doing, Mr. Dickinson, old friend? How's everything?
Good to hear from you.
Yes, sir. I mean, kind of funny what you said about Podziemski before the break. How unless I'm blind like Stevie Wonder, he looked just inept in the playing game against Memphis, and even tonight, plus 17. However you get it done, I'll take it. Kings and a Warriors fan, but I'll tell you the thing that's very prevalent, like the last caller said. I just, for the life of me, man, like you see JK, and it's like, how did he go from a starter, potential, building block with him, Podziemski, and Moody for the future, and he came back from, injury, and then obviously the Butler trade, and the team's been different, so his role may or may not have changed, but he was a starter and a focal point as a scorer. But it's most importantly, he might not have been the playmaker, but great players find a way to make everybody else great. And to say he's not going to have a role, there's 2 things that are need on to keep in mind as Warriors fans is that we're going to need him against athletic teams, including Houston. We're going to need, whether they want to play him or not, they have athleticism all around the perimeter and the interior, as well as the rest of the players that we're going to have to face in the semifinals and the conference finals, or hopefully the finals. He's good. They're going to have to find a guy like him or Jonathan Kuminga as a role on the team in the playoffs of the postseason to have a chance to win the championship. In my opinion, I think a lot of fans would agree with me. But just again, the whole notion of, well, he can't find a role, he can't find a niche. I'm telling you, he's not going to want to come back here and be part of this organization. And again, be careful with what you wish for, because you don't really miss something until it's gone. And if you don't have any inclination what that means, just go look up I-80 East to the Kings. De'Aaron Fox is gone. They miss him more than anybody. JK is somebody who needs to invest some time in. I'm not saying 35 minutes. He couldn't have got 10 minutes tonight. Like, yo, them players on the Rockets are long, athletic, and can jump. Who can jump and long like that on the Warriors outside of who? I'm trying to think of anybody. I mean, Podziemski has some good size, Moody. But, I mean, who else?
Well, Javier, you heard – I don't know if you've been listening, Javier, but, I've been saying it, and I'm typically one of the last guys to say it. I think there is an opportunity for him in this series at some point. Now, I don't know about every series and all of this. Again, I think he is an overrated player to some portions of the Warrior fan base. That's also just reality. Like, he and as far as the future doesn't matter as it right now as it relates to Kuminga. He will have an opportunity to sign an offer sheet. The Warriors will have to decide whether they want to match it or not, or do a sign and trade. Again, that's a June, July, kind of conversation. His best path back in is probably going to be someone else falling out of favor or an injury to someone else. And then obviously you have to hope that he's willing to come and bring it. That he isn't so demoralized or off put by everything that he doesn't, that he can actually come back and give you something. But no, in the big picture, and again, I like I've said, I think there is a spot for him. I think he is going to end up playing in this series. I think it more now than I did before. But the reality is, I think the future conversation, I think he probably is going to be gone. And how the Warriors manage that in the offseason, he is the type of player that can get you the player that can put you over the top if you wind up not being good enough to get over the top. How that looks, the salary cap ramifications, the CBA, the other players have to go out, which team it is it Brooklyn, is it somebody else? Like, all of those things, again, are extremely complicated with the rules of the CBA. It's not just as simple as ship him here for this and it's done. But I think there's a difference between a player that can help you in the 82 and a player that can help you win the 16. And I think because of the circumstances of Kuminga's injury and coming back and a completely new team, there just wasn't enough time left in the season for them to figure it out. And now they got to win games. And he finds himself, at least for the time being, on the outside looking in. What does that mean for the future? We shall see. But I think, again, I feel like it's come to a point where Steve and Steph and Draymond would tell you in the offseason, it's better if he's used to bring in a player that fits. You're all in on Steph. You're all in on Jimmy. You're all in on Draymond. Allow for him to go somewhere else where he can try to flourish, still as a young player in this league, and allow for the Warriors to try and get somebody, like trying to continue to force the square peg into the square peg into the round hole. This is the fourth year, and there have been different combinations of things that have worked and not worked, and so I think it's time to stop doing that. Like I especially now at the point where you would have to pay him. But again, that's a big picture conversation. Short term, he's on the team. He has the potential to help them this year. And again, I don't think his ability to play. I think he may wind up in this series at some point. And again, you're always one injury away from it being necessary that you play. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. All right, let's do a couple of chats, Kyle, and then we'll take a little time out before the top of the hour here in about 4 or 5 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll do some sounds of Dubs OT from there. But let's do more of the chat. It's been a spirited chat here tonight. Jimbo, experience in having 2 number ones is showing already. Yeah, it got the Warriors that win tonight. And again, coming into the series, what was the Warriors' biggest advantage? Not just experience, but having the best 2 players in the series on paper. And the best 2 players on the court tonight were Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler. And so that won the Warriors the first game of this series. Continuing on here in the chat, EB here. The young guys on the Warriors gained a lot of playoff pressure experience tonight. They didn't play well, but the Warriors still won. I think that's maybe the biggest takeaway, and the one thing that can be looked forward to on the positive side is guys who didn't, Podziemski, I thought, played well. If you just looked at his shooting, he didn't, and at times a little timid. And what is he doing? He's dribbling around. He doesn't want to shoot. Where's he going to pass? The defense is all over him. Like there were a bunch of those tonight, I think, if you're watching the game. But you look up at the end of the night, and he really didn't play as badly as it might have seemed by the way that he shot the ball tonight. Guys who didn't shoot it well, I think, now have the opportunity to relax and settle in. I think the young guys, Post, Podziemski, and Moody all have that. I think you saw Moody. I mean, he's just ice water in his veins, keeps it steady no matter what, whether he's playing well or not. But I think you saw Moody more relaxed late in the game than he was here early in the game. And I think that's something that bodes well moving forward for Golden State. Everyone's worst nightmare. Rockets need a pure scorer. Who's their best shooter? It's probably Jabari Smith. It's probably Jabari Smith Jr. I mean, he's got to be up there. But yeah, no, I'm looking at the Rockets stats here, and you look at this team for this season. I mean, they've, Van Vliet can knock down some threes, those kinds of things. But no, you look at the Rockets and some of the numbers for their guys this year. I mean, who was their leader in terms of 3-point percentage? Among guys who played a lot, it was Dylan Brooks at 39.7. In terms of overall field goal percentage, you look at it, and Amen Thompson gets a lot of his around the bucket, 55%. Adams around the bucket. It's all Şengün. Tari Eason, 48.7, Jae'Sean Tate, 47. But you look at the guys who play a lot. It's not Jabari Smith, by the way, 35% from 3, 43.8. You look at Dylan Brooks, 42.9, Jalen Green, 42.3, Van Vliet, 37.8 and 34 from 3-point range. I mean, yeah, they really I wonder how much, and they didn't want to break it up during the year, but I wonder if the Kevin Durant thing comes into play for the Rockets again in the offseason, because we know Durant's going to be going somewhere. But yeah, they need it. They don't have a number one option. I mean, I guess you could consider Sengun a number one option, but they don't have a number one option that's a wing or a guard at all. And so they're kind of, they're kind of, it's Sengun's really good, but then they don't, it's kind of like if the Nuggets had Jokic and just no Jamal Murray or Michael Porter, then the whole thing would look a little bit different. Let's do one more. Bennett Roth, Rockets just love throwing up trash. Their half-court offense as an in-game rebounding and box-out drill. The throw it up and go get it offense. It's the Rockets half-court offense. Throw it up and go get it. It's try to get out in transition first and foremost off of steals. If you can't do that, it's throw it up a jumper and go get it. And you also are trying to isolate, maybe get to the bucket and get to the free throw line off of that as well. But they were so good tonight at offensive rebounding that it almost allowed them to come back and steal the game from down 23. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR if you want to still continue on the phone lines. But we're going to do some sounds at Dubs OT coming up next here as we get into the 11 o'clock hour back on the West Coast. We will hear from Steve Kerr. We will hear from Steph Curry and Draymond Green, to be sure. We're going to hit a little Jimmy too?
Yeah, maybe a little Jimmy. We might replay that him calling Steph Curry Batman just because it was so good.
Yeah, we may do that as well. All coming up here. Warriors win at 95-85. It is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no ball. I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, back here on Dubs OT. Warriors win at 95-85. Game 2 in Houston on Wednesday. Still time to sneak in some calls. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Playoff edition of Dubs OT and sounds of Dubs OT. So let's get to it here. And then we'll get more from the YouTube chat and have some fun with numbers before calling it a night. And what are the Warriors going to do with a couple of days in Houston? Well, they're going to take tomorrow off and then have a practice on Tuesday before playing on Wednesday night at 8:30 Central, 6:30, same start time for the Dubs on Wednesday against the Rockets as it was tonight. All right, let's hear from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, as we often like to start some of the best post-game clips and a little bit about the rebounding, the thing that kept the Rockets in the game and allowed them to come back from 23 down to cut it all the way to 3. The impact of rebounding in this series is something the Warriors are going to have to big time focus on. Here's what the head coach had to say.
Well, I mean, that's obviously their advantage in the series is the size and athleticism and the offensive rebounding. They had 22 of them. We can be better for sure, but they're going to get offensive rebounds in this series. They just are. We have to keep playing. You know, the possession doesn't end until we get the ball, so we got to keep fighting. I thought there were several loose balls that we didn't grab with two hands with force, so we'll look at those, similar to the Clipper game last week where, you know, the ball's bouncing around. We're trying to bounce it one time, or maybe we get a rebound and we're so anxious to get in transition, we throw the ball away. We can't have those. If it's a half-court game, I really think our defense can get the job done in this series. But so we can't be turning it over. We can't give up, a million offensive boards, but they're going to get some for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt they are going to get some. But again, I think the loose balls, it can't be 22. It can't be 22. If it's, 15 is a bbig number. If it's 15, the Warriors probably still win the game by 20. Or close to 20, and it's not, because it got to a point where you were starting to wonder. I mean, if Curry and Jimmy, you're thinking, if they go cold for 2 minutes after it got to a 3-point game, all of a sudden the Warriors are down 4, and the place is going nuts, and they're in big time trouble in this series. So I would say it can't be 20. In terms of the offensive rebound. So baby steps, right? Let's go from 20 and see if they can go from 20 to maybe 15 and keep everything else relatively similar. And I think the Warriors would probably sign up for that at this particular point in time. All right, another one from Steve Kerr on the defensive imprint of this game, and rare in today's NBA, you see a game. And the Warriors and Rockets have played a bunch of these, by the way. The Warriors and Rockets have played. Now, this is the third game this season between the Warriors and the Rockets where neither team scored 100. Third time that's happened. The game to go to Vegas back in the play-in tournament happened a couple of times in December, and now tonight. Third time in 6 games that both teams have failed to score 100. That had Steve Kerr talking post-game about something from the past.
They're not a typical modern NBA team, in terms of spreading you out, playing fast, shooting a million threes. They're kind of old school. In many ways, they're in the image of their coach. Ime was a grinder as a player. He was, tough and physical, and that's what Houston is. And in this series, you can see they know where their advantage lies, and it's playing Adams a lot, sometimes playing him with Şengün, having everybody crash. So it felt like, 1997 out there to me, completely different NBA game than what we're used to. And we've got to be ready for that. This is what this series is going to be.
And I think the Warriors were ready for it, except for the issues on the offensive glass being so dramatic. I do think the Warriors, again, they looked a little, there's always that initial push from the home team at the beginning of a series, and sometimes at the beginning of every game that the visiting team has to withstand. I thought the Warriors knew that was coming and withstood it well. The Rockets were cold to start, even though they were flying around making plays. But I think the Warriors are uniquely built, as Steve mentioned in the first clip, they are uniquely built half-court defensively to be able to really put the clamp down on the Rockets in a big way. And I think that's where it leads to, equally the Rockets, though, believe they can do that to the Warriors. And I think the Rockets are thinking if they can take one of Steph or Jimmy away, that there aren't going to be enough others that can come along for the ride for the Dubs. And that's both teams, I think, believe they can beat the other in a game where it's in the low to mid 90s or the upper 80s. I think both teams believe that as this series continues to move forward. So I would bet that this is not, having been the third game in 6 where neither team scored 100. I would bet it happens again at some point in the remainder of this series, whether it goes another 3 games or whether it goes another 6 games. Final Steve Kerr clip here on Sounds of Dubs OT for Game 1. Jimmy Butler. I mean, you've heard him say it a million different times, just what Jimmy brings to this team. And we've seen playoff Jimmy now here. This is the 3rd straight game with playoff Jimmy. It was avoid the play-in Jimmy. It was play-in Jimmy, and now it was playoff Jimmy tonight. And here is one more time, Steve Kerr on everything that Jimmy Butler III has brought to Golden State.
He has that impact every game. He calms things down. He's very confident. He's very poised. He always believes we're going to win. Jimmy is he's one of the best players in the league, and that's what best players in the league do. It's not just about scoring or stats. It's about settling the game down, having the presence, the nature to compete and win games like this.
Yeah, and I think there's a confidence that comes out of one, having Steph, obviously, who's won at the highest levels repeatedly, but also having, I think it's a little bit different when you have that wing player. And that's what, Steph's a guard. He's, again, maybe a top 5 of all time kind of a player, but there's something to be said in today's NBA, especially. And the Warriors really haven't had that wing player that they can just throw the ball to and just get out of the way since Durant. I mean, they have not had that since Durant left in 2019. And, to have that wing that can just, it's just that in and of itself is calming, I think, for everybody else, but it just plays to the way the NBA is now, to where, it's a lot easier to take the ball out of a guard's hands. Even a guard as great and as dominant as Steph Curry, it's harder to take the ball out of a wing player's hands in that instance. And Jimmy's so good, better than Durant at setting others up, which I think has been a big part of the regular season success that the Warriors have had. But it's just tonight is another of the however many examples it is, 25 now, 26, however many wins in the game since Jimmy's come over. It's another example of why you need two of those guys. You need two big-time superstar caliber players if you're going to win significantly in this league. And the Warriors now have that, and it's completely paying dividends. But we'll have to see if they can get somebody else going for game two. And again, tonight, I don't know. Can you win 3 more games out of the next 6 exactly like you did tonight? Possibly, but I still think you're going to need more from the others. Do they relax now with the Warriors playing this thing from a position of advantage? All right, let's hear a couple of Draymond Greens. We got 2 Drays, a couple of Currys, and also a Jimmy Butler as well. Here, Draymond Green talking about the Warriors having the potential to play better than they did tonight.
It's very satisfying to win any road game, any playoff game in general, but definitely a road playoff win. I think we can play a lot better. That's the encouraging part about it. I don't think we play very well at all, but still got to find a way to win, and we did that with our defense. Held them to 85 points. So playoffs, it don't matter how it looks. You just got to find a way and then get better and come back, with an improved team the next game.
And again, I think that means rebounding. I think that's what it amounts to. I think it's lessening the turnovers. It's finding ways to relax and move the ball to beat the Rockets defense, because it is going to be ball movement that will allow for that in a game too. But let's not get it twisted. This is a series that the Warriors should be able to win with their defense. And I think that's something that has given them the utmost of confidence as things have started to play out and roll on in this series. All right, another Draymond Green on the defense of the Rockets, but no defense on some nights being enough defense to stop Wardell, Stephen Curry.
No, we're not trying to necessarily show that, oh, man, y'all talking about their defense, but what about ours? We just want to win the game. And we understand that in order to win, you got to defend at a high level. They're the number 2 seed because they defend at a very high level. You got to give them their credit. A-Man is an incredible defender. Dylan's an incredible defender. Tari Eason's an incredible defender. So, you have to give those guys their credit. Fred's a log. Like, it's very hard to move him. He's kind of very low to the ground, strong as hell. So they play to that advantage, but overall, Steph Curry, he usually finds a way.
He usually does, and he did tonight, and the Warriors definitely needed it. Again, we were talking about all the Curry stoppers earlier on the show, and I don't put Amen Thompson in there because I think he was put in by others, but yeah, the Dellavedovas and the Tony Allens and those guys, the Marcus Smarts of the world, the Curry stoppers, been a couple of others that have popped up from time to time. There is no true Curry stopper, and sometimes it does take him a couple of games to figure it out, but it didn't in this one. And again, I think the Warriors desperately needed the ability for Steph to play like he did to get this series off to where a little of, if there was any doubt, and I don't think there was a lot of doubt from the Warrior fan base, but if there was any doubt coming into this series, I think the Warriors knocked it away with the way that they played in that second quarter and the first half of the third quarter when they built the 23-point lead. Moving on from one Draymond, we go to we go to Steph Curry here next. And Steph talked about adjusting the things that he looks for offensively based on the way Houston plays.
Well, I knew I was going to score 3 points for sure, but I think the first 3 shots I missed, and then I understood they were going to really try to take away the 3. And I got to the basket 3 in a row to finish the first quarter. So we try to soften them up a little bit. They have athletes everywhere. They play a tough brand of defense, but if you just play smart and allow my endurance to take over, over the course of the game, I think I get freed up. And usually got to make shots. I made some tough ones, but I think you got to keep them honest.
And it was noticeable. And yeah, that's been something. I mean, Steph took the twos. We talked about the 0 for 3 and then the 7 straight that he made between that point and halftime. And it was 5 twos. And Steph was hitting the mid-range a little bit tonight. And that loosens the defense up a little bit. If you start hitting those, they may live with it a little bit, but then you can start getting the defense to have to adjust to that. And then other things as you move the basketball will start to free up a little bit. But it was the twos that ended up setting up the threes and kind of getting them into a little bit of a rhythm. Again, I think the next step of what the Rockets are going to do is really just say, we're taking the ball out of your hands completely. And it's going to be a little bit more of a turbocharged version of, what we've seen some of the more extreme defenses be. I think it's going to be try to hug up on Jimmy and try to take the ball out of Steph's hands and really go hardcore on the Moody, Pajemski, Draymond, GP when he's out there. Those guys are going to, Buddy Hield maybe, or those guys are going to have to beat you. I think when you look Quentin Post, I think the Rockets are going to go hard on that level of defense as they move forward from game 1 to game 2. All right, let's get another Steph, and then we'll re-rack the Jimmy Butler from earlier. But here's Steph on Jimmy. It's Batman and Robin and all of that. But here is Steph on Jimmy and helping to open up the Warriors offense.
Our system is the same, but we do have basically like, Peyton Manning at the line. You have, your audibles where you can go to the Jimmy playbook, if you will. And like I said, get him the ball at all 3 spots, whether it's pick and roll, whether it's at the elbow or on the block. So, we're still learning, each other and where, those sweet spots are, just depending on how teams guard us. But that is a great safety net to have. If they're going to pressure me full court or try to take away the off-ball stuff, that you have somebody that can create shots on his own.
And Jimmy Butler is the ultimate at being able to create those shots. And again, there are times, and the Warriors just haven't had this, again, going back since Durant. There are times where guys need to just take a possession off and all right, Jimmy at the elbow, take a possession off. He's going to get fouled. He's going to, or stand in the corner, wait for a pass. There are times where you just have to have that to just gather yourself in game. And I think that's something that plays especially well, having players that can get buckets like that against teams that like to defend the way the Rockets were defending the Warriors at different points there. So yeah, it's just the 1-2 punch has been undeniable for the Warriors to this point, and it's a big part of the reason why they are in this series to begin with and have the 1-0 series lead. All right, one more here on Sounds at Dubs OT, and it's Jimmy Butler. Let's get Jimmy Butler. We played this earlier. This was from his postgame interview on TNT, and Jimmy keeps rolling with the Batman theme postgame.
He does. Like I always say, Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
He said he's going to be the reason we did. He didn't say if. Kyle, we got to play it again. Play it again. Okay. Am I missing it?
He does. Like I always say, Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
He didn't say if.
No if.
He did not say if. Kyle inserted the if. He did not say if. Did Jimmy Butler guarantee a championship? 808 KNBR. We'll be talking about that and the Giants bullpen all day tomorrow here on the Sports Leader. Ryan Walker or Jimmy Butler? Moses Moody or Ryan Walker? Kidding. I'm kidding. So by the way, we're going to have to add that, Kyle. We're going to have to add the first part of that to the show close. But one more time, just the first like that. Well, one more time.
Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
Yeah, that first part's got to go in the close. The first part's got to go in the close. You just see him come down. You don't know where he's coming from. Like that. That's gonna have to go.
I feel like at this rate, we're gonna have a Batman themed show close by the end of the playoff run.
We're also going to have a show close that's longer than the actual show itself, which we're going to need a whole other segment just to play the close. But it's too much good stuff. It's just too much good stuff. Yeah, too much good stuff. Warriors win at 95-85 is the final in Houston. 1-0 series advantage there. All right, what do we want to do, Kyle? Do we want to take a break? Do we want to do fun with numbers? Do we want to do more in the chat? Like what?
Let's do
I need some direction here.
Let's do some fun with numbers, and then we'll go into the chat, and then we'll play our segment-long show close.
All right, sounds good. Let's do that. So let's roll fun with numbers.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors get the win, 95-85 in Houston, the 1-0 series lead. Tonight, the Warriors playing – this is mind-boggling, so I am going to start here, Kyle. This is the 30th series tonight, the 30th series for Steph Curry and Draymond Green, not for Steve, and obviously Klay Thompson's no longer a part of it, but Mark Jackson was the coach for the first, 3 playoff series with Steph and Draymond, but 30 playoff series for Steph and Draymond. They have won a road game in 29 of the 30 playoff series. The only one in which they didn't was the last one 2 years ago when they got beat by the Lakers in Game 3, Game 4, and Game 6 to lose that series in 2023. They had gone 28 straight series with at least one road win in the series. The Warriors get back on track with that to take the 1-0 advantage in the series. And the Warriors have won all 5 game ones that they've played against the Rockets in the last decade. 2015 game 1, 2016 game 1, 2018 in this building at Toyota Center in Houston, they won game 1. And then in 2019, they beat the Rockets in game 1. Now they add that in what was the Rockets' first home playoff game since 2019. They played in the bubble during COVID in 2020, and it'd been a while. But the Warriors were the opponent the last time there that the Warriors played the Rockets, or that the Rockets had made the playoffs. The Warriors were a part of that in that Game 6 to end the Rockets' 2019 season. 100th coaching win for Steve Kerr in the playoffs. He becomes the 7th head coach in NBA history with at least 100 playoff wins. Steve does it in 141 games, which is the second fewest amount of games to Phil Jackson in NBA history. Warriors hold the Rockets to 85, 3-0 during the regular season when holding opponents under 90, 12-1 when opponents scored under 100. The only loss when the Warriors held an opponent under 100 was to the Rockets in the game at Toyota Center back in December that would have sent the Dubs to Vegas. Houston, 39.1%. The Warriors unbeaten when they hold an opponent under 40% shooting. And the Warriors did something they haven't done. We had the caller that said, hadn't done it in 3 years, scoring 95. The Warriors were 2-13 in the regular season, scoring under 100. And again, one of those against the Rockets, but they do it in this one tonight. And so the Warriors, again, had 3 games in which they held the other under 100 points in that season series. Steph with 31. Jimmy Butler ends up with 25. And Draymond Green played his 158th career playoff game. Draymond tied Klay Thompson for the most playoff games played in Warriors franchise history. So Draymond is going to be on Wednesday, the player who's been in the most playoff games in Warriors franchise history. Obviously, Steph's missed some here and there due to injury. Clay had been pretty durable for the most part. And remember the one year that he got hurt at the end of the entire finals run in 2019. So, yeah, he was the Iron Man up until that injury. But, yeah, Draymond's going to be the leader of the pack there. And then Brandon Pajemski, 14 points in his playoff debut. All of Pajemski, Guy Santos, and Quentin Post made their playoff debuts. Moses Moody played in the playoffs, obviously going back to 2022. So that, you're fun with numbers here. And, by the way, Kyle Chung +8 tonight in game one. Great night for Kyle Chung and Kyle Chung's plus-minus.
I knew the Warriors were a lock to win once I saw Kyle Chung on the schedule.
Yeah, when Kyle Chung's in there working, it's a wrap. Like that is automatic win. And yeah, Kyle Chung tonight +8. So really, really strong effort. Didn't take a lot of shots tonight, but effective. Again, kind of the Pajemski version of the quality plus-minus without taking as many shots for Kyle Chung. All right, let's wrap up here in the final 5 minutes or so with our Kyle's Clicks and our comment of the night. Let's kind of go rapid fire. Hold me to it here, Kyle. San Jose Jazz fan 4, do win it all. Yeah, like Jimmy guaranteed the Warriors are going to win the title. He did. Like, we've got the tape to back it up there, Jazz fan. Good stuff from you, Max Lopez. JK is Alfred because he stays home. Sorry in advance. All right, let's continue on. Matt A. Houston fans have PTSD, post-traumatic Steph disorder. Yeah, they really did. I mean, there were some looks tonight in the crowd. You're like they just knew because they've seen it. I mean, is there a fan base that Steph Curry has tormented more than the Rockets in his NBA career? I mean, they got to be at the top, right? Got to be. Maybe Portland, maybe Cleveland. I don't know. I think the Rockets are at the top of the list. Bennett Roth, the rainbow shot from Curry had risen like Jesus Christ himself. My goodness. On Easter Sunday. Wow. Wow, Bennett. DVDV. A Curry stopper bites the dust. He was touted. Again, not self-proclaimed, but highly touted in Amen Thompson. So, but such a young potential Curry stopper. No question. Bee's knees. What was Ime's game plan on offense? Just chuck it at the front of the rim and crash. Bee's knees, if you watch the Rockets, it's Sengun, or it's ISO, or it's take jumpers, or it's throw it up and go get it. It's the throw it up and go get it offense. But yeah, their half court offense is gross. I think it's bottom. I think it's 22 or 23 in the league. Believe it or not, there are, I think, 6 or 7 or 8 worse half court offenses. But think about it, their overall offense is 12. Their half court offense is 22. So I mean, that tells you how much they're dependent on the throw it up and go get it, and that tells you how much they're dependent on the turnovers. San Jose Jazz fan 4. Oh, I didn't know this. Chuck picked the Rockets, so it's over. Thanks, Chuck. That is true. That is a big-time fact. And our final comment of the night, here it is.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
DVDV. Sockets, pockets, dockets. Warriors beat the Rockets. It's like one of those Shannon Sharps. Sockets, pockets, dockets. Warriors beat the Rockets in 5. Pockets, dockets, Rockets. Warriors in 5.
It's like a Dr. Seuss book almost.
Sockets, pockets, dockets. Warriors in 5. All right. That's a good one. That's a good way to end it. That is a good way to end it. DVDV. I think DVDV claiming their first comment of the night victory here in the playoffs. We might have to start the new standings for the playoffs here, but DVDV with a 1-0 lead on the rest of the pack. All right, that's going to do it for us. Well, they're about to kick me out of Toyota Center here. They need to clean up. So we're gonna hit the Pike and head back to the hotel and reconvene. I'm going to be joining Murph and Marcus tomorrow. It looks like about 9:30 with Murph and Marcus. I'm going to be on with Papa and Silver on Tuesday, and I'm going to be on with Dirty Work on Wednesday. All of those before they actually play Game 3 on Wednesday night. And then we're going to have Dubs OT on Wednesday night, and that's going to be a YouTube only. We got the Giants and the Brewers on KNBR. We've got some special things we're going to maybe try to do for our Dubs OT YouTube. We got about 2 days to figure it out. Really, I guess 2.5 days to figure it out. So I'm gonna get with Kyle tomorrow. We're gonna see what we can do in terms of fancy open and maybe taking some calls and being able to play sound clips. Like we're gonna dress it up a little bit, but Wednesday truly for everybody in the chat is gonna be about you. We love our chat. This is the best Dubs coverage in the Bay. So the show is truly yours. Tell a friend, tell 5, hit like and subscribe, all of that on Wednesday night. An unfiltered Dubs OT post-playoff game edition after Game 2. We're going to be looking forward to that. Might have the swearsies overnight, Dave. Might have the swearsies going on Wednesday night. So for Kyle and for Overnight Dave and for Kyle Chung and anybody else I need to thank, Cole?
That's it. But I did want to mention briefly, shout out to Bennett Roth in the YouTube chat. He's always in the YouTube chat, and he sent me some samples of his music. He's a pianist, and I love it. Going perfect for our music beds during the commercial breaks, and it sounds like people like it as well. So shout out to
wonderful instrumentals during the breaks. I like it. That is beautiful. I thank you so much, Bennett. Thanks to all the regulars, Drew Down and Jimbo and Andis. It's a big Andis show on Wednesday in the chat, Andis. But everybody enjoy the next couple of days as the Warriors and Rockets set to play Game 2 from Houston. All right, that'll do it. We'll talk to you Wednesday night. Join me tomorrow with Murph and Marcus. Tuesday with Papa and Silver. Wednesday with Dirty Work, Copes and Derek Papa, and we'll get you to Game 2. Warriors win at 95-85, KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
It's Pajemski inbounding for Golden State. It's a Curry 3. Ring it up. Curry with a triple.
Emirates Cup or bust.
Oh, hell yeah.
First of all, you guys start off liking each other.
I'm super cereal.
Big fat dub.
Ain't nobody going to stop me.
I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or not.
But great win.
Who are these guys?
I love you, JD. Bye, sugar.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
Jimmy freaking Butler puts it in.
Obviously, I'm shooting the ball well. It's pretty obvious.
Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door.
Everything's gonna be all right.